If you're a guitarist aspiring to be a true master of the instrument, then this video is for you. See, you already know that playing other people's riffs and transcriptions will only get you so far. You already know that improvisational freedom is the signature of mastery. So how do we achieve improvisational freedom? Well, basically like this. Open on the first chord, voice lead it close to the second chord. Voice lead it open to the next chord. Voice lead it close to the next chord. Voice lead it open to the next chord. I just created a pathway. Now I can improvise. 3, 4. Leveraging open and close as fundamental melodic variations. In this video, I'm going to show you the method for unlocking improvisational freedom so that you can play with effortless fluency through any chord change sequence imaginable, anywhere from a classic blues progression all the way up to Coltrane changes and everything in between. By the end of this video, you will understand the substance of improvisational freedom, and you will have a framework for developing your unique voice as a true master of the instrument. Now, just for a little context, the lesson you're about to see is from my fretboard mastery course. Now, the intro to that course is free. It's the first link in the description, so you can grab that for some additional context, as this lesson is going to be referring to concepts in that free course. Without further ado, all right, this lesson is going to cover the Turbo Booster practice framework. This is the main thing. We need to understand this all the way to the core. So the Turbo Booster practice framework is a 3-step framework for practice that we're going to apply at all levels of practice. Right now, we're just going to apply it to practice form 1. That's going to be the limit on this practice module. And then the components of practice form 1 are going to be these 3 pathways, right? We see this D flat, range optimized 2-note per string. We see this C, range optimized 2-note per string. And we see this F minor, range optimized 2-note per string. So the first thing we want to do is just go ahead and learn those. So this is going to look really easy, but this will take a lot of practice to get. That's your first thing you want to do right there. You want to just normalize that pathway, start to see it. Now, to break it down into small chunks is going to be a great thing to do right here. So the first thing I recommend might be like, right? And you're going to do this on every grip, right? But I'm just doing it one at a time. You see the logic of it. Now I'll add another string, right? Now I'll add one more string. And you see where I'm going? Now I want to isolate things, like this is hard. Whoa. Starting to confuse yourself on purpose. Like, you want to work on that edge. And you remember this from Fretboard Mastery 1. I was doing the same thing. It's that same practice. You want to work on the edge. This is isolation, ingraining a singular pathway, and starting to see all the variation possibilities on just that single pathway, right? Of course, in the larger context of the tune, we would now do this to the C. So I'll just go ahead and do that really quickly. For obvious reasons, we're using the same exact pathway, just down 1/2 step, a parallel movement. A good introduction to basic transposition, but for now, we just want to get good at that good old parallel movement, right? Same exact practice over in the key of C now. Right? Notice with my picking, I'm just picking all down for now because all I care about is the rhythm. I'll do some alternate picking later. Point is, don't overthink the picking. Just make sure your picking is pushing the rhythmic intention. And you'll see when I get into some deeper subdivisions, and we're going to get into all that in this video, my picking is going to go all 6 ways from Sunday ballistic, right? But for now, I'm not overthinking it. I just want to get the sound of that pulsing rhythm. And I personally like the sound of those even-handed, just consecutive downstrokes. You can't go wrong with that, right? So just to get these little variations starting to happen, right? Isolating. Look at that. That's a nice. Like simple grouping ideas. Like those are the classics, right? Get out the classics going on, right? And you're literally just trying to ingrain each individual grip under your fingers right now. Start to see that 2-note per string optimization, because you'll remember from Fretboard Mastery 1, these are all fingering 2s right here. These are straight up good old fashioned fingering 2s, and we can see they're really nice. They feel really good. Your fingers can access them pretty easily. Notice I'm doing a lot of 1-3, and it's not bad, right? Look at that, right? That's pretty easy. And I could be more clear on that bottom. Right, be very articulate. And now look what we're going to do. We're going to apply that F minor. It's the same logic here. We're just going to work out this F minor, and you see why the C connects to the F? Look how that C reconfigures over to that F, right? That's not a parallel movement. That's a perfectly voice-led movement, right? So let's get that F minor under our fingers. We haven't done that yet. And in this example, we're actually using a fingering 3 hybrid with a fingering 2. Right, that's all fingering 3. And there's your fingering 2. And here's where we want to start to be thinking about rudiments, right? So isolating parts of a grip to get the rudiment sounding, right? Like, right? See those effortless parts of the grip? So the rhythmic intention is huge, and I'm just bringing that in. I mean, it's a dimension we can never be ignoring. So we want to learn those pathways according to rhythms, right? The ones that flow really effortlessly under our fingers. And that's going to expand over time, but in the beginning, like look at these effortless ones, like I'm following my own instinct here, but when you get into this, you're going to follow your own instinct. That's the key understanding. You got to get in there, and you got to start to be like, right? All right, to zoom out for a moment to see that we're all on level 1 of the turbo booster. We're just on the launch pad putting our pieces together. We've got a long ways to go, but we're going to cover all of it in this video. It's just see how zoomed in we are, right? We're so zoomed in, but it's worth it. Those pathways are everything. You know, we need those. We can take time to make a whole bunch of music on just a singular pathway, feeling out some rhythms, not worrying about the transitions, just getting the rhythms in the pathway. That's what I was just trying to show you. That's very, very, very valuable practice. Not only ingraining the pathway, but that's actually where you're developing language that you're going to use when you actually apply these pathways to the form in time, respecting the harmonic transitions, playing the chord changes. So now we got to commit to a feel. I'm going to keep it pretty slow, but it's going to be a 16th note driven groove. So it's like, so you hear it. Right? So we're going to play those 16ths on this pathway, right? It seems fast, but we can also play 8th notes if we want, right? But keeping on those pathways, right? Look at these pathways. Look what I'm doing. I'm on the D flat, and I got to keep 2 beats of 16th notes on D flat, right? So like 1 E and a 2 E and a, you know, and I got to commit to a specific rhythm. So I can make it easy on myself by just going. That's pretty easy. You know what I'm saying? If you did the practice that I just showed you a minute ago and you took a while to work on that, you know, a couple days even, right? And if you haven't taken a couple days yet, you know, you're going to do that, but you can finish the video and get the big picture, but you do need to spend some time. You know, you got to spend time ingraining those pathways before this is easy, right? Right? That would be a perfect level 1 turbo booster for you. I'll even go ahead and slow that down. to move efficiently and you really want to go quick on this, you should copy that exact one, right? Just learn that exact one. You could play it slow, you could ultimately play it faster. You could also create your own, right? Because you can see that all I've done is I've applied range optimized pathways for the practice form. So you have the skills to do that. But if you want to move really quickly, just copy that exact one. All right, so great. Level 2 now. Level 2 is improvising on that pathway, okay? So this is about to get insane. Compound by orders of magnitude right here. I'm not going to deviate from these pathways ever. In any example I'm playing on level 2, that's the discipline of level 2. Level 2 requires a specific discipline, and that means not deviating from the pathways. But watch how much freedom I have even when I don't deviate from the pathways, right? So that bass on that is good though, right? Now that's an extreme example that I just showed you, but I had to make the point. You saw I did not deviate. I did not deviate. I brought in another level of subdivisions, flipped it over into the 3s, because we have to deal with these things early. The duality of 4s and 3s, it's fundamental. So I know when you think of all the things you got to learn with music, like which are the most important things? The difference between 3s and 4s is hugely relevant. I definitely want to draw your guys' attention to that right here. Right? Like in that feel, right? We want to get good at making that shift. It's classic. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is because on level 1 and level 2 of the Turbo Booster, we have the opportunity to deliberately use those types of rhythms because we can compose certain rhythms. Because a perfect level 1 Turbo Booster is requiring us to choose a specific rhythm. So like remember when I showed you a minute ago, you could just copy. Right there is where you have the option to also do a 3 feel. Right, see the logic of level 1? I really want you guys to see. I mean, there's only 3 freaking levels here. I mean, the logic of level 1 is that you get to compose. You know, you're thinking about like something composing. It's just the compositional mentality there is minimalistic simplicity, right? So in this case, I'm just filling out basic subdivisions, kind of like in the most sort of logically intuitive way imaginable, right? And then just committing to that basic iteration at level 1. So level 1 has that sort of like basic iteration mentality. And then level 2 is, by contrast, variation mentality, right? So the level 1, level 2 duality is such a beautiful thing, and the discipline of it really, really brings it to fruition, and you can see insane results because you guys can already see what I'm doing here is comprehensible to you. You can almost see yourself doing what I'm doing. Like, this is very accessible, but I'm outlining that harmonic rhythm beautifully. I mean, how much deeper does it get in terms of like technique? What more do you need, right? And you guys can see how you can develop your technique endlessly with this approach. It's all about that rhythmic rudimentary approach here. All right, now it's time to talk about level 2, actual improvisation here. Now level 2 is all about creating rhythmically. So right here I'm going to give you some examples of how you can do that, okay? But this is going to require you to dig deep within to find those rhythms, okay? And it's not hard. I'm going to show you what that process can feel like, okay? Now let's isolate on something. I like to show this one, really good little example here. Look where I'm isolating within the grip here. See, on that F minor, out of this little D flat to that C, and where's my F minor? But if I just keep it isolated. Just examples of level 2. That's all this is. And showing you what the practice can look like. I'm showing you that it's as hard as you want to make it, right? I find myself on my edge in that practice framework. You're going to find yourself on your edge. And you see how level 2 is putting you closer to the edge. Level 3 really, it pushes you over the edge. So that brings us to level 3, is when we combine the pathways. So that's going to require us to get another pathway, right? So you got to go back to level 1 and run this whole process of a new level 1 into a level 2, compounded at level 3. And level 3 is always going to be, okay, a third pathway, okay, a fourth pathway. But look how we can come back to level 1 and construct this new pathway. I'm going to contrast the first pathway with the second pathway, where I'm going to use these open position triads, right? They're going to force me to play in a different way, right? This root position, open D flat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to voice lead that to a closed position on the C, like this. Hear that contrast. See, I'm building out this pathway, this secondary pathway. A whole different mentality emerges. How do you think I'm going to approach these? Way more rhythmically. You'll see. So now let's connect this to, how about an open first inversion F minor? So this becomes open D flat root position, close C second inversion, open F minor first inversion. Now let's put that one in context, right? Let's now take this one into a basic level 1 rhythm here, right? Like, what's that most basic thing we could play? We could probably play like... See that? Different aspect. Now you're going to see, this is going to make us use our right hand differently. This is going to make us think about rhythm differently. You might be thinking that's a small amount of material, especially compared to this kind of stuff. Now, another benefit of keeping it this simple is I don't have to spend all this time ingraining it, right? I can just add that to the one I spent all the time ingraining, and it's going to be really easy, right? Because if I take this to level 2, I can already make some music. But the trick here is to think rhythmically and be very creative with your rhythmic intention, like... Look at that. Here's where practice shows up. Look at this. Couldn't get there fast enough. Got to rethink the fingering. That, see that? This is what happens on level 2, right? So start with that basic idea and just get comfortable with all the different connections that you intuitively want to connect. Just like here, I wanted to get that one, right? Like... Right, see that? Like I'm moving my hand to set myself up to land comfortably where I want to be, right? I want everything to be comfortable. And so this is part of that research process. This is huge, right? That's why you got to have these really specific parameters, because you always need to be researching combinations. And the fact is, you don't need to know all the combinations, but you need to get that compounding spiral of development happening by learning specific combinations of configurations in musical context and make music out of those. So pretty clear what that level 2 was. Now we can go to level 3, right? Check it out. I did lose the practice, and that's where I stopped. And it is about that discipline of focus there. You could see how deliberately I was making use of those two pathways intermingling, right? There's levels to understanding on these interminglings, and that's why level 3 is such a compounding factor, orders of magnitude, because you add in a third pathway, you add in a fourth pathway, you can systematically program yourself to become the best fretboard master that ever lived in history. And that's why this course is called Fretboard Mastery. It truly is the official definitive mastery system. I sincerely believe that. There are certain mentalities that you have to consider, like not being afraid to make mistakes, trusting the process of your own development, and pushing rhythm and tension always. Yes, take time to play rubato in the very beginning, but always pushing that rhythmic intention. Carving out these rudiments, right? These fretboard pathways, these things that you can play rhythms with. And that's where you're going to develop your own voice. It's when you focus on the rhythm, because the rhythm is where all of your phrasing variation is going to come from, right? You're just doing the pathways. The pathways are just systems. There's lots of them. There's plenty to choose from, and we all have to get in there and do the research and find them ourselves. And I'm showing you that 3-step process in doing that. So this was the turbo booster. Hope that made a lot of sense. And yes, you would equally apply this to another form, another standard. And in step 2 of the 6-month mastery roadmap, you would be applying this to the blues. You would do the same process to the blues, and you would compound it by absolute orders of magnitude. It is an extremely large leap to apply all of this to a 12-bar form, and there are certain tricks we're going to use to simplify that. But yes, it's quite a leap, right? Because we've seen so much on just a 2-bar form. What do you think happens on a 12-bar form, right? That's the whole point. But what we're doing here in fretboard mastery and guitar mastery at large, you, myself included, we all need to understand all the depth there is. And we can understand it through the Turbo Booster Practice Framework. Now, in a later module of this course, we're going to be applying chord voicings, right? Notice how everything today was single note melodies. We obviously have the chord voicing aspect, and the Turbo Booster is going to guide us through that as well. But now you understand the 3-step Turbo Booster, and now you can see how we can apply triad configurations and range optimized pathways to the practice form, and you can create studies, and you can take those studies through level 1, level 2, into level 3. And that's what the obvious assignment is just to do the Turbo Booster with single notes on the 2-bar practice form. That's the assignment. So get that done as soon as possible, and I'll see you soon. So if you want to access the full Fretboard Mastery course and you want to work directly with me, the first step is going to be to book a demo lesson. So you can do that with the link in the description. Or if you already know this program is for you, just go ahead and join my inner circle. You'll see that link in the description. This is going to give you access to 3 live classes per week, one-on-one lessons, my full course library, which of course includes the Fretboard Mastery course as well as my Jazz Fluency course, plus composition courses. My inner circle is going to provide you with everything you need to accomplish unequivocal guitar mastery over a 6-month period. So this is the type of thing you would want to do if you want to get that master's level music education without spending $100,000 and 6 years of your life. You can get the whole job done in 6 months for a few $1,000 instead. So I'll see you on the inside.